The future is bright, and it's brighter than ever. We're getting a set that I am personally extremely excited about. Age of Overlord brings on so many powerful engines and standalone cards that we just have to talk about them. But first, if you want to support me and the channel, use my affiliate links in the description below, and you can also become a YouTube member to get early access to deck lists, exclusive Discord access, and much more. The next core set in the TCG and the latest one in the OCG is going to be Age of Overlord. And Age of Overlord doesn't necessarily power creep the game like sets like Power of the Elements did, but it does bring on so many fun engines and standalone cards that we just have to discuss them. And before we begin, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel as always, and I'm gonna go off with the first one, my personal favorite, the Horus engine. There is a new card called Pharaonic Sarcophagus, which is sort of like the cornerstone for the Horus archetype. The Horus archetype is made out of 4 level 8 monsters of different types and attributes. They can summon themselves from the graveyard built in when you have Pharaonic Sarcophagus on the board. And they all have pretty big stats, really cool effects, and they are pretty annoying to deal with. So Pharaonic Sarcophagus says Horus monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects unless they target them. You can send one card from your hand to the graveyard, send one Horus monster from your deck to the graveyard. So essentially, you just fill up your graveyard using cards from your hand that obviously you could net advantage from as well if they are Horus cards too. Once per turn, at the start of the damage step, if your Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send that opponent's monster to the graveyard so you can defend them from the first battle. It doesn't target, it doesn't destroy, it just sends. And you can pitch cards and send from the deck up to 4 times per turn because there are 4 Horus monsters, which is incredible. And of course, they all have really strong effects on the field when another card you control is removed by an opponent's card effect. Imseti himself can just send a card your opponent controls. Dwamutef gains 1200 attack for each Horus monster you control, but also if another card leaves your field, you can draw cards equal to the number of monsters in your main monster zone, which again, if you get your engine rolling, it could be a minimum of 4. Then we have Kabesinwef that when a card is removed from your field, you can protect all of your Horus monsters from being targeted for attacks. And no, your opponent cannot just attack over them directly. And of course, lastly, we have Happy, which is definitely doesn't sound like an Egyptian name. And it can target 2 cards in either graveyard or banished and add them to the hand or shuffle them to the deck. So again, you can just recycle your Imseti to search another sarcophagus. If your sarcophagus is removed, you can bring it back. So essentially you have sort of like a wall of level 8 monsters that if one card gets removed, you trigger 4 different effects, and they also have a very good trap that can once per chain summon them from the graveyard. Again, 4 times, 1 per each monster. Then we have one card that we haven't talked about in the channel, but made a few waves and is making waves in the OCG as well, and that is Stellar Nemesis Typhon Doomsday Star. This is the equivalent of Zeus. It's a rank 12 Dark Fiend monster, works perfectly in your Labyrinth deck, and it has some pretty wild effects. So if your opponent summoned 2 or more monsters this turn or the last turn, you can just slap this over one monster you control with the highest attack, which is crazy. You can just place this on the board. If summoned this way, you cannot normal special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, but while you control this Exceed Summon monster, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3000 or more attack. Once per turn, detach 1 material, return 1 monster on the field to the hand. This is pretty exceptional, especially for trap decks, but basically just a generic removal for any deck that can put this in the extra deck. Imagine you're going up against a board of, barons and big monsters like this Spatter, you normal summon a monster and then just slap this on top of it. You can basically take out a monster your opponent controls and they cannot activate the effects because their cards are 3000 or more attack. This is, of course, a Fiend, which allows you to play this in Labyrinth really good. I'm sure this is definitely a design choice to allow Labyrinth to go second. Now, you can get a big body on the board, lock your opponent from interacting with you, and also remove their threat from the board so that you can play. If we're already on Labyrinth, we're talking about Arias the Labyrinth Butler, one of the most exceptional cards, just unbelievable support for the Labyrinth strategy, a level 6 Dark Fiend monster that says during your main phase quick effect, you can send this card from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard from your hand, special summon one Labyrinth monster or set one normal trap card, and that set card can be activated this turn. What does this actually mean? Again, letting you play going second, but also getting your engine going on your turn when, you're supposed to just set cards and pass the turn, but now with Kuklok and Arias, this is just bending the rules of what can you do with trap cards. Imagine Arias, big welcome, and Kuklok in the hand. You can activate 2 cards on your first turn, 2 trap cards without waiting for your opponent's turn, get your engine rolling, and obviously, you can do some pretty broken shenanigans with that. I've also seen this card being played in other decks that are not Labyrinth in the OCG currently. Again, this is a pretty game changer for traps, and now you can consider running this and another trap in your deck because you're not stuck with it and you can actually interact with it on your first turn. Then we of course have to discuss Diabellstar the Dark Witch, very interesting monster that is inspired by a real world Wild West criminal named Bellstar, which was an outlaw back in the days of the Wild West, and also has a pretty famous wanted poster that inspired this card's main searcher. So Diabellstar the Dark Witch, level 7 dark, stats pretty much like Dark Magician and every other main character in the game, and this card is pretty impactful and it's making waves in the OCG right now, seeing play in a lot of decks just as an engine, but also as a searcher for Rescue Ace. So you can special summon this card by sending 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard. You can only special it once per turn this way, and if it is normal special summoned, you can set 1 Sinful Spoils spell and trap, which is this archetype's name, from your deck directly. If it is sent from the field or the hand to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon it back. But it's not just this card. The Sinful Spoils Hunter Fiend is again that wanted poster that brings out Diabellstar from the deck. It's a quick play that says add 1 Diabellstar monster, hinting that there could be more from your deck or graveyard to the hand. During your main phase, you can banish it from the graveyard and then target one of your Sinful Spoil spells and trap that are banished from the graveyard, place it at the bottom of the deck, and then draw 1 card. So this gets you to Diabellstar, but what does Diabellstar actually do? So it can do a few things because there are already a few Sinful Spoils cards. So first of all is one of the more popular ones, which is Sinful Spoils of Doom, Luciella, which targets 1 level 7 or higher spellcaster monster you control. Of course, you want Diabellstar on your field. It is unaffected by monster effects this turn, but you send it to the graveyard during your next standby phase, and most importantly, all face-up monster your opponent currently controls lose attack equal to that monster's attack, so in Diabellstar's case, 2500, and if they are reduced to 0, they get destroyed. This is a very powerful board wipe against a lot of decks. Anything under 25 or at 25 is reduced to 0 and then goes to the graveyard. And then we have another one that you can actually activate on your turn because it is not a quick play like Luciella, which is the original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye. Normal spell, send 1 other face-up card you control to the graveyard and special summon 1 level 1 fire monster from your hand or deck. Also has a banishing effect that adds a monster, but again, the Sinful Spoils Snake Eye archetype has a lot of level 1 fires, but what's another level 1 fire? Rescue Ace Hydrant. In this deck, the Diabellstar Rescue Ace is basically the best deck in the OCG right now, making a lot of waves and looking extremely solid. Pretty exceptional. The word on the street says that this is the new main theme like Albaz Visas, and this will be the next one. And lastly, arguably the best card in Age of Overlord, which is SP Little Knight. Another evolution to the IP Masquerena sort of archetype, if you will, and this card is pretty crazy. It requires 2 effect monsters it's a link to, and if it's summoned using a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link, you can target 1 card on the field, banish it. Also, your monsters cannot attack directly for the rest of the turn. So what this means is that you set up IP Masquerena, use IP to summon this, and this just banishes a card your opponent controls. Pretty exceptional, really power creeping to Nightmare Unicorn, for example, but it doesn't stop there, because when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including 1 monster you control, banish them until the end phase. So this card gets you a banish and then gets you another banish. Pretty insane, pretty crazy. Not a lot to unpack here because this card is going to be a staple in every single deck. If you're running Masquerena today, you're going to be running SP Little Knight as well. This card basically power creeps Lynx entirely. It makes Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn pretty much obsolete, and you're going to see a lot of this card when Age of Overlord comes around. So, what are you excited about Age of Overlord? Which cards have you already tested? I know I can tell you I'm running pretty much all of these except for Arias. In my decks, Diabellstar and Horus are absolutely crazy and fun to play. Let me know in the comments what you think. Leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.